of the three and
Sorry,
I'm sorry,
Sean.
Shannon, I lost you there for a minute.
said, that PowerPoint presentation I did for the Westlake might be something that could be regurgitated for, Encore. It shows the relationship between service area, in this case would be Encore, right? And the CDD and Fishhawk. It was, I think, pretty well received. Everyone seemed to appreciate the time I put into it. So I think that's might be helpful to John's plight.
Okay, I appreciate seeing that.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to it. Okay.
It's the same link where you were gonna send all this stuff to before.
I haven't finished it, John. I haven't sent it to you because I haven't finished it yet.
That was just
Are you-
just a poking.
Are you in Winston-Salem?
Yeah, I'm working, guys. Believe it or not, I'm on the clock. So I'm gonna get a little cranky here soon.
My boss
Okay,
lives
can we
there.
roll through this? Yeah, and we're gonna do.
All right, guys,
So should we start below this first summary page?
I don't know.
Where do you want to start, Sean?
The summary is just basically the breakdown after the individual. This is dynamic. It just tells you what the dues will be rounded up and how it pans out according to last year's dues.
One
That's-
two typos on the heading there.
Like I said, it's not finished yet, John.
I'm just, I presume you'd like to know, so you don't have to go.
Yeah,
look at-
I'll go through with a fine tooth comb. I did this at 2 a.m. the other night and sent it to you guys yesterday at 11. So I'm trying to squeeze it into my job here, which is about 20 hours a day right now. So in any event, this is kind of the result of the budgets. Just the dues part of it. So we looked at the master one previously. That's the next page is down. Really what needs to be discussed tonight is the orange items and the blue items, because those are the variables that we put in as possible exceptions to or changes that we can make. So the yellow items are fixed and unless we change a contract. One of the items on our agenda, I thought, was to address the contracts with Sunrise. And there's, certainly they gave us an 8% increase that's already posted in these numbers. So
Skip that. Sorry,
So-
Sean, that's my fault, Sean. I think we skipped that one, actually. I apologize.
yeah, it's okay. But I would like to talk about that the next meeting. So please forward it to as old business at this point, because it really is something. We're paying a lot of money to these people. I mean, a lot of money. So, okay. So
was it blue you said we want to look at?
the blue and the orange.
So I'm at the first blue, 1,200 non-exempt. Lease agreement fee, $1,800.
Where are you looking? Do I have a different
Right.
form?
I have that as a variable only because it's based on a no number. Say, the year before that, we weren't tracking it. So I filled in a number based on what I've seen this year so far, but we weren't tracking it separately in our ledger items. So I don't have any reference to it. So I put it in there as a variable saying, hey, this is my best guess. So it's not really,
Yes.
It's a
so-
fee for approving people's leases.
correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Charge or
Go
we
down to
got-
the administrative. These are the ones that, we start hinging on things here. And we're talking about the bad debt. That was topic of conversation that John brought up. That's 4%. And it's a variable that can be taken out. If we have an issue with this number being in the budget because of payback and tracking, it can be taken out of the budget without any difficulty.
You're talking about the 38,000?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I think that what this is a combination of accrual and cash all in one. And since our budget's supposed to be on a cash basis, where that's the way I look at it. I think we should set this aside from a cash management standpoint. We need to make sure that we have enough, at least $38,000 on hand for the year for.
I remember
Miss
that.
Capel's.
And that would be basically included in contingency, John, right? So at that point, that's really what we're talking about, is increasing the contingency or using it as part of. So the only reason I put that in there is to give a better variable for the float. And I agree, it doesn't need to be in here. It's basically put there just for that reason. And you're right, that is an accrual number. The rest of it is cash.
So this is a cash management item, and it's not even a part of contingency, because we ultimately will collect all of the fees. Just a little 4% is what's left over toward the end, and that's going to be collected the following year. So that's management purpose. We need to know that they're going to be short as we go through the year.
Yep, that's exactly what it's for. Look at the collection charges is estimated on what we put out of pocket to liens and so forth when we have to collect. That's 10 liens possible in 1 year, $450 out front to Melissa's law firm. And then, of course, if it takes a year to get paid, it is also could be considered as accrual, but we're going to be paying it out of pocket. It got to get paid from someplace. It's not a random number. But both of those could come out. So those are the only two numbers that I estimated as something to illustrate where the bottom line would be. The rest of the numbers are real and are our cash basis and based on items that we've discussed or items that we are discussing at this point. I don't have breakdown for everything, but this is the optional items we talked about for equipment purchases as opposed to leasing. I did add a $10,000 access equipment balance because we have the actual access controls, the 10 access controls to pay for, as well as $2,000 worth of conduit and or trenching that has to be done. It needs to be put in in the budget as a mandatory item at this point to finish that project. The rest of things are all optional. And I think some are less optional than others, but they don't have to be purchased, but they should be in some cases. Comments?
Equipment purchase.
So,
Correct.
are you talking about the $26,000 equipment purchase for under office expense, 5032?
Yes, there's $8,000 outstanding on it, plus $2,000 more we have to spend for the conduit and trenching around the pool.
It's not equipment.
So would it be good to move the portion that's related to the pool in the pool area instead of the general administrative?
It's not a pool item. It's actually part of the upgrade of the access equipment.
New key card system.
Oh, key card system. Yeah,
Okay,
so it's trenching around the pool.
I understand. It's just,
So
it's
26
general
grand to
maintenance.
install the key card system at the pool.
No.
No, it's 8,000 plus.
Two.
So what are services?
But actually, the 8,000 that he's talking about was already approved.
Mhm.
Right, we've already talked about that, and actually, I think a portion of it should be reserved, but either which way, that's equipment only, and that's what we actually owe Sean for the equipment he had on hand that I'm able to use to start installing personally. So we owe him like 9,000, 8,000, something like that. The remainder of it is got stuck with a hiccup. We need to trench around the pool. Wasn't expecting it, was hoping to avoid it. Can't be avoided, it has to be done. So instead of spending the whatever quotes I had of 20 some odd crazy $1,000, we're gonna use manpower.
We're gonna need your muscles.
Comment, the $8,000 from reserve will be transferred into this year by the end of this year. So it'll be in our cash account. So it's already accounted for.
Gotcha.
We need a working party with shovels, is what you're saying.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So the 1836 for services is,
can we just go item by item, maybe?
We did that already.
Well, we're an administrative section, right? So what are we doing? Let's just do this, Sean. What are we doing with bad debt? 38,000. We keeping that? We leaving it?
I can take it out.
It's kind of high, to be honest with you.
Reducing it?
It's not high. It's 4%. That's what it really is.
so it was low last year.
Do we have, so Dave,
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't last year. It was 4% last year. That's where I got the number.
So why is 4% now 38,000 and last year it was $12,500?
If the budget goes up, John, the numbers go up, so does the 4%.
You mean we have that much more revenue coming in this year?
Yes, sir.
You gotta remember Sam Flecken.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
This won't happen again next year. We're gonna be sold out and fully closed, but.
Okay, well, my personal opinion, I've said before, we shouldn't put the 38 in there. And the collection charges, I also feel like that they kind of go with bad debts when they, we spend it.
Okay,
So to let you know, the last 2 years, there have been budgeted 12,500, 12,499 was what was budgeted for bad debt in our previous numbers. I didn't set that number, so I'm okay with taking it out. So it's perfectly fine. We were moving on to, I'm sorry.
We gotta account for bad debt though, right? Like we have to work it into the budget. We have to assume some people aren't gonna pay.
No, we don't. We don't know nobody, we know people are not gonna pay.
Mhm.
Accrual basis of accounting means you estimate how many of your money is coming in that you are going to not collect. So you deduct it as an expense. But we're on a cash basis. So it assumes that whatever we bill, we're gonna collect. And the offset to that is not setting a reserve for what we're not gonna collect. It's reducing what we pay for until we get it in.
We're supposed to be on accrual basis.
No, our books are on an accrual basis for accounting purposes. Our management purposes and our budget are based on a cash basis.
We were on accrual last year. And that did cause some of the discrepancies because we were getting P&Ls with 100% income in, and then actually not seeing 100% income because they didn't report the P&L by cash. They reported it as accrual as well. It gets very confusing when you try to look at it that way. And I'm with John. This needs to be cash based. And then on this portion of it. But where the bad debt falls into is that contingency, which is where it needs to say we have to have a cash contingency in case there is bad debt or there's an emergency or God knows what.
Exactly.
So, again, going back to this item, anybody have a problem with this? Anyone want it? Think it's great? I'd like to just move one line by line and go through them.
Just take it out and take
I
out.
already take out all the equipment.
No, you're down at equipment now.
Oh,
all
no.
right, okay, so we're moving bad debt, we moved by 5011 and we're moving 5012 collection charges.
Right.
Okay, so we're looking at services, 5023.
Do you want me to share my screen so I can make the edits while you're watching?
I would love to, but it's gonna be extremely small, so I'd rather do it when we're at the end, this way we could look at the totals.
Yeah,
So the $26,000 breaks down to 3 iPads, 1 check scanner, 2 document scanners, 3 monitors, a projector, a sound system and a screen. Those are lofty goals, but they're there. And then the $10,000 balance of the access equipment.
that's gonna, I think, would be for his residents and his community. They're gonna see that large amount and there's no explanation. They're gonna be like, what? It would have to,
You gotta figure out of that 26,000,
mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, but out of that 26,000, 8, 9, 10,000 of it is like, you can't move it, it's not negotiable.
Correct. It's mandatory at this point.
Not looking at 26,000 now, I mean, we are.
You are, but 16.
You're looking at $16,000 on equipment improvements.
Oh, I understand that, but I'm just saying when they don't know how
No,
much
I
we
get
do here, they're gonna be like, "What?"
I get it, that's why it's important that we understand,
Oh, yeah,
so we
okay,
could repeat.
all right, that's good.
I mean,
So,
we can publish sub schedules if you want to do that. That's fine. But it's not uncommon to do so. Like, general ledger 5032 breaks down to this, just like I've done here.
so what I'm thinking is that when we get this approved, because we're saying stuff right now that I guess I can transcribe off of the recording. But what we're saying is that when I talk to them about their budget, what the budget's going to be, I need to be able to tell them what's in that $26,000. Now, one of the things that I told them this afternoon was when Associate left, they took all our equipment with them.
Mhm.
And so we had to rebuild our office. And so the iPads, the monitors, the computers, whatever we're getting in there to run the shop is the cost of getting rid of the Associate. So
It's not a recurring cost, it seems. This year, we have to pay this because we're setting up on our own.
right. So you're saying that
I mean, there's,
Go ahead.
sorry, John, go ahead.
So to clarify, 10,000 of the 26,000, that's what that is.
Mhm.
And the 16,000 then represents what?
I'm sorry, the 10,000 of this, the 10,000 of the 26 is already spent.
Okay,
The 16,000 represents the offset that we don't have yet. And some of it is even loan.
With the exception of of a, you know, amenity for for movie projecting, right?
Right. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, there's some improvement, get a projector in here, get a drop down screen, upgrade the stereo system, there are some things of improvement in that 16,000. It's not all necessity.
5,700 of it is improvements. The other part of that $16,000 is office equipment.
And if I heard you correctly, Sean, you can break this down even further.
I already have, I've got it in pop-out notes on this, but I can actually make a attached to the budget. Here's the schedule for each one of these items that we're talking about. Absolutely can.
That should at least help you explain. So the question really comes down to is how much was it of fluff were you saying? 5,000?
5,700 is optional.
Do we want to pick at the 5,700? That's the question.
It is. That's the question that we need to answer. Do we want to kill that? And I think
Hold
that's a,
Hold on, Sean. There's $5,700 in question here. The question is, do we want to kill it?
So it would make it
$5,700 gets us nicer stuff in here,
No,
gets us nicer stuff in there. And we kill $5,700, of
does it make their jobs easier?
course. Part of that is iPads, so she could be out in the field. iPads for Jared, yeah.
No,
so that's not, I think weren't we talking about the projector and
It's
Yeah.
in that too. Don. It's in the 5,000 projector. iPad.
oh no, the iPads are not the optional part. I left that as office equipment. It's just the projector, the screen and the sound system. It's the 5,700. The iPads,
Gotcha, I didn't hear that. Okay, so 5,700, he's got budget in here for an upgraded sound system for this entire facility. A projector screen for the facility for A, so we could do this better. B, so we could do football parties, things like that and have a projector. Or was that the projector for the grounds for movie night?
the projector can be used for both if you really wanted to. I mean, why not?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, you're right, the screen's cheap. Either was, yes, and movie night. I'm
The screen is cheap, right? That's the cheapest part of it. It's the screen. So
$700 for upgrades or fun stuff.
that's $4.60 per household
Yeah.
per year.
per year. Yeah, that's annual budget, right?
It's just a request here, Sean. Let's quote everything monthly since we're going monthly.
Okay,
I'm just throwing it out there so that whenever any of us scream out a
not a
number.
problem. Yep, not a problem.
so the $10,000 we've already spent, you said that.
Correct.
How does that interact with the deficit surplus that we're gonna?
We haven't spent it. It's allocated. There's a difference there, John. We need to spend it. We haven't yet.
But when we talk about the deficit that we're
Mhm.
getting a special assessment for,
Mhm.
is the money in that?
No,
So what they were looking at is the cash,
Mhm.
okay? The $10,000 was sitting in cash. When they were asking why you were getting 60,000 instead of 30,000.
That's a good question. So if I understood it correctly, we're upside down, what was it? The 30, and then the estimated amount that we will be upside down by January.
where does that 30 come from? I'm still trying to figure out where that number come from.
100% sure. I mean, let's break out a calculator and look at it. No, I don't know.
Well,
I think
mostly-
it was from you, Sean, actually. Actually, no, it wasn't.
No, she did. No.
49,000 is the deficit.
Okay.
I heard someone from the floor say 30,000, but I don't know where that number came from.
I got you.
Okay, so $49,000 is the deficit minus this $10,000 that we are holding in the account before we spend it.
No, this money doesn't exist yet, John. It's allocated because we have to finish the project. We haven't spent the money. I've donated equipment at this point that is basically a liability. I'm sitting on the money myself.
Yes.
That's all I asked.
Sorry, I did not explain that right now.
Okay. The equipment lease is equipment for the mailer.
I'm presuming equipment lease.
Yep,
56
it's for the copier and the postage machine and, yeah, all that stuff.
All right, so I think we're not gonna touch it. No.
Okay.
Okay. So the next number is contingency. It's set for 10%. We can
Well-
change that for anything you want.
Where you at?
He's at 51. The next orange one,
Uh,
50, 51.
Okay, so that's at 10%, 92,000. I don't have a preference. I don't know.
What is that
I mean,
supposed?
it went down just a minute ago because we basically took out some numbers. It went down, a few $1,000.
Contingency basis, hurricane comes through.
Yeah,
We have 92,000.
It's our cash contingency, 10% cash contingency for anything that comes up that we didn't plan for, including people who didn't pay us.
So this is only the contingency related to the common areas, right? It doesn't include.
The service areas have their own contingencies.
They had their own budgets, complete own budgets.
We did the exact same thing with that.
I personally wouldn't touch it. Okay? It's set at 10%. And another thing you got to keep in mind, it makes sense. If you do a special assessment, you're doing a special assessment on 10% because it's what you can assess without the community voting on it. So it makes sense. Think of it, this is your special assessment. Should it
It
never
is.
happen?
That's why I said it at that. It's exactly the same.
We collect it and we don't spend it.
We collect it and try not to spend it.
So what if we don't spend it?
That's okay. It's tax-free at 10%.
It is, and it carries over, we can opt to carry it into the next budget, reduce the dues. That's how it works.
Yeah,
Exactly. It carries over and it goes back and the dues are less next year.
We don't know tax on it.
So long as
Right.
it's-
If it stays at 10%,
Okay,
And one quick point, if I may go back, one alibi, sorry, I couldn't get in, but I was in, but I wasn't talking. The 5,700, one of the other ways to say it is, will it improve the meeting presence? Right? If we're going to get better speakers and better microphones and, because if you're on this, I wasn't able to get there today. I could barely make 20% out of what was said in the sidebars, so I think if we could set it up that way, I think it's worthwhile. Personally,
so yeah, it's not set up that way. Could it be? I suppose it could.
yeah, it can be.
Why not?
just something to keep in mind as we move forward. It's for community events to include town meetings or board meetings. All
Yeah,
right, I'm professionally fulfilled.
I love where you're at. I just think it's gonna cost more, but I love.
It's just a selling point is what he's saying. It's a selling point.
No, I get it.
All right, so moving down to 6011. The postage is put in here because we have to, I'm guessing that we would do 4 mailings. Full mailings a year. We've already done about 2 this year. Of a few hundred, one full mailing of 4 full mailings of 1227 and 12 of like 150 of people who aren't registered to get it. So if we had to do that, so that's where that postage comes from. We've already spent about $700 in postage so far, from what I can tell from the postage meter. So this is a pretty good number.
That's as lean as it gets as far as.
I know, I'm saying that's pretty lean. I try to keep it that way, but that's the breakdown. I put some printing in there, postcards, signage, whatever, for certain things, and some copying. If we were going to do like a massive copying, we're probably not going to burn it up in our own. Might take it to somebody to collate and staple it. That's why that's in there. It can come out. It's only $240. It's pennies, basically, to each person.
just leave it alone.
I suggest we just leave it in.
Yeah.
Okay. The moving all the way down, I mean, now we get to scroll all the way down to landscaping.
Real quick, why do you have email highlighted, 978? 6041?
Those are your computer programs.
Highlighted where?
It's on line 6041.
Oh, it's yellow, right? It's highlighted. Anything in yellow is our staple amounts that we pay every month. We can't get away from it. They're contracted and they're fixed.
Okay, so Office 365.
Yep.
All right, go where?
I'm sorry?
Where do you want me to go? I'm sorry.
Oh, jump down to landscaping on the 6400 block.
Excuse me. One item I just wanted to be sure I understood. That's under insurance, the hazard insurance of $14,000.
Yeah.
Zero before. Are you including? Was it paid for in one account before? It was $25,000 last year, and now it's going to be 39,000.
That's correct.
Okay. Just a clarification.
Yep, it's actually got a note on it, but you can't see it on that printout. But yes, that's a good thought. I broke it out to have hazard and liability separated. It was in one category under just insurance last year. I wanted to see what the costs were for each thing, including vehicle was included on that as well.
Okay, and then this comes from our broker, an estimate of what these are going to be, or is this your estimate about what you think it will
No,
be?
that's exactly what we're going to be spending. We've already got the renewal on it.
And the vehicle is,
We have a gasoline, not a gasoline, electric cart that we use. It also covers vehicles for employees that are driving in the neighborhood in case they happen to have a problem. Like, Patty, for example.
That covers Patty doing work business in her personal.
Work cart and personal vehicles used by the HOA, basically.
Got it.
HOA purposes, I should say.
That's $5,000. Holy.
And I've seen Patty drive, so this insurance is necessary.
Is this recorded?
Dude, you're the one that hit a landscaper.
Oh, now you're going there. I see how you are.
That's story then.
That's my landscaper hit. All right, landscaping.
Okay, so these numbers are definitely padded for a couple different reasons. We've talked about upgrading the timers to centralize it. That's under the irrigation portion of this, but the improvements to do planting and cleaning and so forth around the fish, the lake house. And the $20,000 is for tree trimming around the lake house as well as tree removal around the lake house. Those are estimates that were rough estimates given to me by two different botanists. I'm not botanists, but tree specialists that came by. The mulch is something that we had in improvements before for $8,000, but price has gone up and I'm tracking it separately. So that's where the 11,000 comes from. So all of these could go away. Could do no mulch, no improvements, no tree trimming. We could. The tree removal will probably have to stay because it's going to happen.
Complaint this past year.
Oh, no, we gotta do
Patty's
that.
got news.
And that number's gonna go up, Sean.
For what?
Yeah. Tree problem.
We have major tree problems.
I'm aware.
No, they're worse than we thought. We did the tree walk today with
Nature Coast.
Nature Coast.
Yeah, the one that you talked to, right? Yeah.
And we're gonna.
So this
Give
was
me a-
my guess.
She didn't give me a number. She'll give me a number before December 1st. But we're talking probably close to 100,000.
But we don't, 100,
You could just keep coughing because I'm gonna probably cough up something myself.
John, we're thinking 100,000, we're not thinking 100,000 right now. We don't know. We have to get the breakdown of trees. This might be 100,000 over the next 36 months.
Right, and that's the thing.
What I've got in here is 35,000 right now.
Right,
Right, between trimming and trimming.
right. Point is, we may have to change these numbers to what? We don't know yet.
Okay, well, that's why they're blue. They're variables that we can change. So the irrigation repairs, last year we spent $6,400 on irrigation repairs. I put $8,000 in at the rate we're going. That's probably light. The improvements are to change the timers, as I said earlier, to centralize them, to put, basically communication cards in them and change the timer itself.
Yeah.
Did you guys
Um,
ever-
That can go out if you don't want to do that. I mean, that's fine.
So
But
I was gonna ask a question about contracted services under maintenance.
Uh-huh,
Goes into that?
that's our contracted services from Sunrise monthly. I mean, yearly,
For maintenance?
Yes.
you the landscaping, mowing, blowing, inspection of the irrigation system and pest control.
Everything going perfect. And we never needing anything and never one sprinkler on thing. Breaking, we pay 22,000.
Right, that's what we pay just to have them mow and blow, basically, for lack of a better thing to say.
Where are the invoices that he was talking about that we're filing that?
Not invoices, proposals.
Yeah, we get.
We have them, sorry.
That's where these numbers came from, so it's proposals.
Okay.
Now I broke it down, they had it on one number here and we broke it down. We took the pest control and the irrigation and separated it. So you'll see that contracted services, the 5,001 would have been added to the 22,000 on their contract. And the insect control has been added to their contract. So those three yellow numbers together are their contract for the year. Last year's contract was 24,000 plus 750. I have a notation on one of these, a couple of these that when Heather put the budget together, she only put in the mow and blow number and didn't include the pest control and the irrigation. So not being privy to those contracts last year, that was put in an error. I've corrected that.
Can I jump in for a question on the irrigation?
Yeah,
Hey, I wasn't able to make the CDE meeting this month. So whatever happened to us taking over part of the share of the pumps from the CDD? Any update?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Kind of just, we had a good discussion. Kind of just told them how it is, but we have a good discussion. The reality is they want to get their stuff off the books, right? So we understand the problem. There are sections of irrigation equipment that solely services us. There's other sections that solely service Encore. And Ballinger has the percentage breakdown. We've all seen that. Great. And I just told them, quite frankly, for starters, we can't budget for it this year. It's not going to happen. They could put together an agreement provided we get real live numbers so we know what to budget for in 2024. All right. Because first we need to know a few things. We know exactly what it has been costing, so we know what it's going to cost. And they need to figure out their reserves to do reserve transfer for us. They said they did a pooled reserve. They're not sure. They're going to try to figure that out. I said, well, they have to, because you can't give us 8-year-old aged out equipment and have us to reserve it overnight. They all looked at me like they light bulbs were going on.
Well, the
Right.
other part, reduction in the fees.
And the third part was a reduction in CDD fees. And that's when I think I saw the biggest light bulbs go off, because they realized, they realized, wait a minute, we already budget for this. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
So why are we paying twice? So long story short, man, it was a good conversation. It was very eye-opening in my opinion. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to go. We left it off with, we need this information to even be considered. It needs to be in by September with actual numbers to be considered for a 2024 budget. And any contract that might be even considered would be a 2024 start to transfer of payment. But the agreement would be on the percentages, of which we would also like someone, even though I like Ballinger, we would have another irrigation come out to verify those numbers as well. So point being, as of short, it's not going to be a concern for this budget. Thank God.
outstanding, good job.
All right.
Okay, so the next section that we go down to is the 6,500. There's nothing in there that is blue except for 6514, and that's security patrol.
Yep. So I don't care what we call it. Mark and I were talking about calling it ground maintenance, which actually makes sense.
It's security patrol. It is what it is.
Security, I don't care. Again, I don't care what we call it. Part of it might be pool attendant. Maybe we end up spending 30,000 of that on a pool attendant. Still not security patrol. It's ground maintenance, because that's what I need. I'm not in favor of removing this, but open discussion.
Are we paying for pool attendant anywhere else?
No,
By the way, since for all you non-Facebook goers, great post this morning, I'm sure you saw it. The splash pad now has 3 broken pieces on it. I guarantee you it's gonna be a $10,000 repair. And the response was, somebody needs to tell the teenagers to stop jumping and hanging on it. And I said, man, somebody does need to tell those. Somebody. We'll
but
just fix it.
does a delta of $30,000 offset $10,000 in repair?
Yeah, and the downtime in the community, how do you, and right now the side has sharp edges for little kids to cut themselves, possible lawsuit.
All right.
What's the price tag on that?
And then we have dog park damages recently today.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say what I said earlier to Patty and Jason. I keep hearing the phrase over and over from all these homeowners. We live in $1 million homes. Start acting like it. $1 million homes don't have broken pools
Who lives in $1 million home? Mine's not $1 million.
anymore. It's a different topic.
I think you said that back when we were talking about
It's
what was going on at West.
the same thing.
Westlake.
And here's the thing, whether it's pool attendant, security, to fix the parking, every week someone's sending me more pictures of cars parking after hours. We can't do anything about it because we have nobody there to do anything about it. We have nobody managing the grounds. Your Westlake parking issue.
Hey, I put signs up. It
That
helped.
was your-
You put signs up and it did what?
It helped.
So do you think if we had patrol car there?
I'm not, no, I'm happy with this.
So I gotta know,
Grounds enforcement.
can we call it like grounds enforcement or covenant?
No, you
Grounds
can't
enforcement.
mask it with something because you're embarrassed to call it what it is.
No, it's not a patrol.
It is a patrol.
No, it's not. It's not a car driving around at night patrolling the neighborhood. That's exactly
No,
not what.
But there's a person walking around. That's a patrol.
We're not giving the,
I'm not trying to hide them. You can call it patrol. I don't care. I do like grounds enforcement. It sounds really cool, but I don't care. It solves a need for the community.
and we don't want to give the wrong impression that we are providing security to people
That's right.
that are out there.
You don't
And
want to
that's
think
why you don't put
security. This
security.
is
I understand that, but
policy
also,
enforcement. This is not.
also it is. Back when I was getting employed,
Of these-
Yeah, hold on a second. Is this going to be a contracted service or an employee?
this is, again, this is the way, in my mind, it's a contracted service and always has. Would it be an employee? I don't think there's enough money in there for it to be 2 employees, and it would need to be at least 2. So it's a contracted. service.
Hmm.
Which makes more sense. We don't like the service you fire again.
What about the pool attendant?
I don't know. Maybe work something out with the security company to cover the pool during its peak season.
Mhm.
Maybe, and that's why I said, Sean, maybe this thing doesn't cost us 100,000. Maybe we say, hey, you know what, we need to budget 25,000 for the pool. Okay, then
Okay, so-
we could. It's in here.
And I'm going to push this along because I really don't have much more time. We've got a lot to grounds to cover. I just need a number in here. I don't care what you call it at this point. I'm not even going to argue what it is. Just tell me what you want me to put in there.
Patrol, 100 grand. Anyone want to change it?
I want to.
Safety and security.
Matt wants to change the name. Safety and security.
It's already in the security section.
John.
Code
I want it
enforcement.
less because,
Code enforcement.
because
All right.
I think there's some benefit to the service areas.
Sure, John, the only reason I say I can't make it less is because if we spend it this year on patrol, on the actual security team, my quotes a year and a half ago were 96,000. So spending it less,
So my
physically cutting that.
my group where I live came to me today and said, I understand you're gonna put a couple of patrol cars out there. And I said, no, it's not in the plan right now. It's been talked about. And they said, how are you gonna get away with that since they put it up for a vote last year and we voted it down?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they didn't vote it down. We never
Really?
came to fruition. We didn't have enough votes.
No, that's called voting it down, Tommy. When
Yeah.
it doesn't pass, it got voted down.
No, because that was put in, if I remember correctly, that was put in for a special assessment, and it would have required 75% of the votes. We didn't have enough, and I knew that. I
You
put
didn't
it,
have 50, you had 46.
stop leaning on this. The only reason that was in there last year was for fluff. I never in a million years knew that would pass. I wanted to get community engagement. If the community engagement was 50-50. Either which way, it doesn't stop you from doing what needs to be done. I'm sorry.
Correct.
However, you're not the only one that's doing this.
And I hear you, and that's what I said. Anyone want to lower the number? John
I do.
does. Does anyone else want to lower the number?
Well, I'll tell you, the
think
amount
that-
of security calls that Tommy and I have fielded. When people complain about people at the pool late at night causing noise, me and Tommy go. At the risk of our own lives possibly. That's a bit of a stretch, but, you know, there's kids there and who are we to kick them out? They can say F off. When kids are here, messing around here at the lake house, me and Tommy go down here.
So who is this, the people that are doing this that aren't a patrol, they're risking their lives?
Yeah,
They're police.
they're
officers.
insured and paid to do that. Yeah.
So they are a patrol.
I would say, so it's stupid. We're round robin on something that I see as a need. Period.
Okay,
You're saying, what should we do with the numbers? So let's stick to that. John, you want to lower this? Anyone else want to lower the number, even though I don't think it's possible?
I think 100,000 does look scary.
Okay, how you want to lower it?
I don't, it depends on what we want to pay for it, right? Like if we're just.
No, it depends on what it costs. I got
Right.
quoted a year and a half ago for 2 people.
Mhm.
It doesn't cover us 24/7. We still leave, I think it was 1 or 2 days here uncovered completely. Might have been just one. And it drops off at like 10 o'clock. It was either 10 o'clock or midnight when we don't have coverage, and coverage picks back up again at 6 or 7 a.m. Okay, so you get 2 people on switch shifts that you get to maneuver here.
Yeah,
And a squad car and a bunch of other great stuff, but the point is, cutting that back further than 96,000, I don't think there's a cutback. There's a cut in half of where you get 1.
Mhm.
But now you have no coverage. There's definitely 2 days of lapse of nobody gonna be there, and they can't work more than 1 hour, 10 hour days. So, again,
So the question from my side is, because I didn't get a chance to expand on what I was talking about, is when is the problem the most apparent, and can we cover that? And once we get it going, and people can see what, if anything, it helps with, then we'll have a better opportunity to expand the coverage to something that we feel might be more appropriate.
sure.
But
So-
if we start with 30,000 and only cover the time from 10 o'clock at night until dawn, you know, because that's when they're in the pool after hours and you guys have been called and all that sort of stuff. And it works out fine and the crime rate goes down, the vandalism goes down, then we can talk about expanding that same service to other times.
Sure, so what you gotta think about it in 2 ways. First off, we're not hiring a temp that comes in and out. You're hiring a dedicated employee through a third party company with the training and all that great stuff, right? So they have to work 8-hour shifts, right? And they have to get 40-hour work weeks. So if you're thinking 100 grand, just think 2 people at 50 grand. So you have to hire 1 person that can only do 1 person's work, right? And say you want to expand, that expand doubles it. Now you're at 100. Right, so I thought exactly like that. So, oh, we can put some hours here, we can put them over here, we can put them over here. But at the 3 companies that I talked to back then, like, no, we can't operate like that because we can't keep the employee employed. Right, the guy doesn't want to come in from 8 to 10. And then go take a 3-hour lunch and come in for another 2 hours when we need them. You need to kind of give these guys a swing shift and 40 hours of straight steady work. And I said, okay, I got it. So that's where we're kind of stuck. That's why I couldn't piecemeal it. Have it all or nothing. Either do it or don't do it. Don't half-ass it.
But what I'm hearing from Mark is that the vandalism is happening in the evenings. It's not-
Let me, again, let me preface what I'm trying to fix, so everyone understands. Because everyone keeps pointing to one bit of this bridge. I want to fix all the street parking that goes on overnight and the vehicles that are just stalled sitting there. I want to fix that. This can help. I want to fix the after hours, 9 o'clock when the pool closes, kids jumping in there. I want to fix that. I want to fix all the people that do not leave the amenities when they're closed. They're not jumping fences, they just didn't leave. So nobody goes and closes the amenities. That's gonna happen here. That's gonna happen there starting in January. Big time, right? Don't know how to fix it if you don't give me the help to do it. Okay, I want to fix her signs and this, and get the cars off. So, as I explained to Mark, find a way to fix all that, find a way to do it under 100 grand. What do I say?
But again, before you interrupted me, was the items that you were talking about are happening in the evening.
No, all throughout the day. The parking happens when school gets out,
I live in Westlake. I know what the parking is.
so it's not in the evening.
Well, it's gotten to the point, we had, a child followed all the way to work and threatened because one of the parents that was parked there had road rage so bad. It is bad. I mean, the signs have helped. Even with the fence being gone, we have so much people crossing over now. We have the kids now all of a sudden cutting through, our sidewalk through here, cutting through, and it's just, it would help cut down just that. And you're a little bit further, but I now have cars parked in front of my house.
We have cars getting picked in the middle of the day over on Watercolor.
Mm.
Kids are going by in the middle of the day in the summer. Summertime is the worst time of the day. These are all real things, Kathy, whether we like them or not, I think they matter or not.
Well, I'm not arguing.
Where is the county on that? So that's why I've been building this relationship over and over and over and over again with the sheriff's department. We're on good terms with them. They have access cards to all the facilities. They're here all the time now, which is very good. But as far as fixing these things on the fly when they're happening, they're not here. They don't care. I talked to the county, the sheriff over here, and Will's talked to the same sheriff over there that joins the traffic circle right in front of the school. What is that? Barrington Towers right there and Village. He's there all the time. He refuses to move 2 blocks down to go cover the intersection in front of us. Why? It says, because we don't have enough. It's not worth it.
So you told me
He
to-
takes the second lunch every day at that time to talk to the crossing guard. They sit and they talk for 45 minutes. He does absolutely nothing. That's where they're at. And they just don't help me. They really don't. Hey, there's kids in the pool. Okay, I'm gonna get out. They're not gonna be there with these stuff to fix the problem. They're not gonna be there to fix the splash pad. Or anything else in there. So, either way, I don't want to I don't want to keep going round and round on this. If it's an absolute failure, you could fire him next year and reduce the budget. My point is, I think it's a necessity and we should take it.
I mean, you don't have to take a formal vote on it, but can we have a consensus so we can move on?
Trying to.
Sure, stick it in there. We'll see what everybody says.
Thanks, John.
Stick it in there. We'll make it to 500,000. We'll be really good on it.
John.
And then we've got to, everybody complains, we'll end up with 100,000. How's that?
That's a great idea.
That is actually a great idea. Change that. Sean, make it 500.
Oh, press.
All right, where are we? 'Cause I'm lost.
Down to 6612, which is HVAC. I don't have, the reason it's still blue is because I don't have a real estimate. There are leaks in the coils of both air conditioners at the lake house.
What's the difference between the 5522 and 5512 or 6612?
Down in 6,000s. Why are we back at 5,500s?
I misspoke, okay? 6522 says HVAC under other. And a 6612 says HVAC under structures. What's the difference between the two?
The structures is the actual replacement and repair. The other one is is the servicing of it.
Okay. That's all you need to say. So we need some air conditioning units.
We need repairs for the air conditioning units. That's just repairs. New units would cost us $100K.
Servicing is going out, like cleaning it, pushing all the bugs out of it.
Okay.
The repair is the tanker end.
Okay.
So that number's in there because we talked to the guy that did service it and he showed me the leaks and we were expecting a quote. Patty, I don't think he ever sent one, did he?
No, he did not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why it's still in there, because I don't know the real number yet.
Probably. So Jennifer has a question on 6614.
Yep.
1,500 to 6,000.
That was based on your comments about the repairs that were made this year or needed to be made. Now you're telling me there's probably another 10 grand to do. So this number's pretty lofty, I guess.
I
Yeah,
agree. Okay. No, you're right. Everything's broken.
So it sounds like I should increase that number. I wasn't expecting it to be a variable. I just went off based what we were planning. It said cost us. So I can certainly,
Well, a lot of stuff that's broken there is probably reserve expense. We have bad ladders, we have bad grates. I'm not talking resurfacing of the pool. I just say we have stuff there that's physically broken.
yeah, but physically broken stuff isn't always reserve expense. That's just wear and tear, which is different than replacement costs or resurfacing and stuff like that. There's this fine line there, but I can take this number out if you like. We've always spent numbers there. They've always posted numbers to it. We've always had a budget for it in the last 3 years.
No, that place is gonna need to be spent.
Looks good.
Okay.
So down the bottom on 6641, the $2,000 in general, we put in there for possible repairs for the landscape lighting around the lake house, which is practically non-functional. And then I don't know if Will's still online, but Will said I should probably increase that number to 5,000. He does some of this kind of lighting, but that was based on an estimate on how many lights I counted and what the cost of the replacement and having JR do the work.
Yeah, no, that's right. JR would do the work for a job like that.
So that number's a variable because it's not something we budget normally, and I stuck it in there because it needs to be done. And I don't think those lights have worked since I've lived here.
And yeah, so that's something I would keep the way it is, because, on 3,000, I mean, if we had to pull from a contingency because we were 500 over or something, that's what you would do.
Yes, exactly. The next number is 6643 tools. We talked about this last time. It hasn't changed. It's basically, a chop saw, a couple power tools and a decent ladder for whoever's on maintenance, doing maintenance. So that's why that's in there.
So it's not that I'm against getting him tools. I'm all for getting him tools. I have a table saw coming his way now. He has a brand new fantastic ladder. I know he needs tools. I don't know if he needs $3,000 for tools. And I don't know if it means anything to really change it. What we would change it? Cut it in half?
Why does he have a table saw and a new ladder?
Well, because we purchased a new ladder last year. It's maybe 4 months old. 28 footer. I use it at the pool. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I
can-
mean, it's the 28 footers. He needs regular A-frame ladders to do things. You can't use a 28 footer to do smaller projects, right? So that's what I was looking at.
It's a little giant. It is an A-frame. We use it for everything around here. So it's a multi-functional ladder. It's not a 20-foot extension.
Anyway,
It
this was just an estimate based on some tools that I didn't see he had. He's asked to use my chop saw. He's asked for other power tools that I have. So that's where it came from.
it's fine. We could keep it. I just don't know. 3,000 feels high, but
Give me a number.
1,500?
Chop saws about, are you gonna buy a used or pawn shop?
Even,
Or you buy
even,
new?
even the brand new DeWalt is 600.
Yeah.
Depends on what kind of saw you want, but yeah,
Get a brand new DeWalt miter for 650. So
my rigid saw cost $1,500.
you pay too much. I don't know. Anybody else? Or is it just me? Could just be me.
It's a very insignificant amount is all, so not a huge thing there.
Do it.
So since we were taking out the next item down is 7022, it's collection costs. It's $750 per lien that we have to pay up front, based on a 4% failure. If we're not doing any of the bad debt stuff, it probably should come out.
Which one is this? What line?
7022.
2020.
So I'm wondering why it wouldn't be offset by income. because we would collect that when we got the money.
Again, that's why I said it should probably be taken out.
Okay.
I have 7042 is the arborist study. We had someone come in and do kind of a free assessment. We'll see what that comes out, but I think it should be left in there for argument purposes, but if it needs to come out, I can take it out too.
Is that same thing as the guy that was looking at trees? So is
The
that,
guy that she got a hold of from a seminar that she went to, that came out and did a free assessment. Of course, they're actually, I think, bid
She
the
is-
work as well. So that assessment, she being Patty. So I'm pretty sure that, that's may be the same thing. There's a service, kind of like a reserve study, a third party that comes out and do tree assessments to give you a general projection, like a reserve study that you would give to an arborist and say, here, this is what we need to have done. That's a third party assessment and it costs us a little under $1,800, but I put 2,000 on there, assuming it would go up by the time we did it. So we can take it out if we feel that this particular company has done the same kind of task.
I say wait and see what she comes up with next week.
Okay. I'll leave it in as a variable until then. Those are the
information for me, what goes into 7031? Management service fees.
7031.
Yeah, the highlighted.
Oh, is
The
that
yellow, the
accounting?
15,
We have an accounting service that does the service fees. The bookkeeping goes up there, but this service fee here,
Is the collection for the dues or is that? what is-
No.
And
no, that's for Appfolio, guys.
okay,
7031's at Folio, okay.
why do we call it that?
Because it's
Yeah.
typically not a ledger item called Appfolio. That's a software vendor. It could be another service next time. Who knows?
Okay,
I haven't notated as such, but.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, typically I don't put Home Depot in for supplies to the, I usually put supplies.
Russ,
I got it. Reserve funding, 8011, general.
Those are the reserve numbers from the reserve study.
Okay, so where do you want me to look at? Non-yellows? You want orange, right?
No, there's no orange. We've already passed the orange and all the blue. We've gone through the variables on this particular one. Look at the bottom line at this point. I'll give you what the changes we just made it affected. Mind you, remember that we were collecting $8,232 for reserve last year, and this year we're collecting $171,309 in reserve. And people keep asking, by saving the management fees, how did it offset it? Well, at this point, $72,000 of that was offset, but not all of it. So the total right now with the numbers, the way you just said it, is $907,497.47 is the total expenses. Dues for annually, I'll go to monthly on it, is $55.81 for everyone else. And the retaining walls is $71.15.
Did you guys include the cost or figure out that mess in the stage, those retaining walls, the other ones with the new community? Yeah, same part.
That's not this, it's not in the master.
Not in the master. Oh, does it have to go in there? That's in a separate.
hey, Sean, question.
Yes, sir.
And with the reserve funding, is this like all the reserve funding that we need, or can we break this out over the course of a couple of years?
This is a course of 30 years.
Oh, wow, okay, so this is gonna be a recurring fee every single year.
Actually, it goes up over time.
Okay, got it, thank you.
there's no catch up in here?
No. We're not behind, really. We applied all the money that we had in our funding. It's just that they basically assessed this wrong. And so now he's starting to amortize it over the next 30 years to get us to where we need to be. The 99,000 for general is really for pool resurfacing next year.
Man, buy a new pool.
That's what it
Not
is.
that, not that pool.
So my other
So,
question,
just one question. If the
Yeah.
99,000 is for pool resurfacing, what's the $58,000 for?
I'm sorry, I misspoke. The 58,000 is for the pool surfacing, the 99,000 is for the building and general structures. Do you guys all have a copy of the reserve study?
Not in front of me.
No. So,
No, he's.
what other building structures do we have besides this one?
Not the pool.
The pool house?
No, the pool was covered in the
No,
58,000.
the pool house is different than the pool itself.
Oh.
But the structures, the
Where
Uh,
you change back that
the
area.
general covers everything from the pavement around the lake house to all three of the buildings at the lake house. The dog park is in there.
Excuse me.
Question.
The pool itself, just the physical pool is the second item, and the painting, of course, is self-explanatory. You know, retaining walls is the part that PV, that, you know, the retaining wall group pays, and that shot up from, you know, $1,000 to $6,600. That's a big chunk for them. But that's where it breaks down to. I can forward the reserve study if you guys haven't looked at it.
I'm doing it right now.
Jason's
Okay,
pulling it up on his iPad, Sean.
I mean, we have it.
I don't think it's necessary for us to look at it
I
right
have
now.
it right now.
Sean, I didn't see anywhere in here for the big topic of conversation we had today, the gym equipment, fitness equipment. I see $5,000.
Right, that's what you have.
So I missed that. Where did we end up with that, or did we just table it to?
That wasn't a variable because at this point it hadn't come to topic. We put $5,000 into the gym equipment because we spent about a little under that is where it came from. But if we're gonna do a lease, then that number would have to be changed.
That's what I'm asking.
What
I didn't know
number
where
is
we
it?
left off.
It is 6621.
We had 5,000 budgeted for it last year. We spent 25,7814 in repairs this year. So I put 5,000 again because it didn't go up or down from last year's budget. But if you put, you know, basically $24,000 in here for fitness equipment,
So that's the question, right? Do we want to do that? What do we want to do, folks?
I'm gonna make that as a variable. I'll change it to blue here so we can see it for next time. But if I put that number in, the delta is $19,000 because the 5,000 was already in there. So 5709 and 7243, it went up, you know, pennies.
Does anybody not want to do that? for the community?
I think we need to.
I actually think that's got more value to almost anything else that we've decided to spend money on because of how many people use it and the fact that it is in such poor repair. That's, and I
I
don't
agree,
blame
John. I want to hear from John, but I agree.
I think we need it, okay? My question is how we're paying for it.
Again, I don't know if you heard me.
We're gonna
answer,
talk to the attorney
but- Sure.
and get it clarified, and if he says
Sure.
go with it, then we're fine to go. Otherwise, we have to figure out a different way to pay for it, that's all.
Okay, so you're just questioning that we don't have the legal grounds to necessarily get
For the
released
lease,
by
yeah.
board decision,
Well, yeah,
even though we already have. So you think there's a cap on these agreements?
no, I think that what I told you before
Mhm.
was wrong. I think when I told you, why don't we lease the equipment, I told you wrong.
Mm,
But at the time we were talking about it, we were talking about something else and it was a smaller dollar amount.
Okay,
Now we're talking about
fine. I will,
county interest is gonna be close to $200,000.
you're right. No problem. I'll filter it through George, but
Okay.
for all intents and purposes, do we want to put it up to the $19,000 variance? Or not?
How, just out of curiosity, how long is the lease we have for our office equipment? Is it a 3-year lease?
Oh, God, I really have to look. I don't know on the printer.
Or is it self-perpetuating? I think it might be.
I think it's a year.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It renews itself, right? So,
Yeah.
okay,
So that's closer to rent. We call it a lease, but it's really,
Okay.
there's a difference in accounting between a
Mhm.
purchase
Yeah,
lease and one that's a rental lease, operating lease. So,
plus the numbers are different. I'll ask George. I'll send it to him and see what, and then send it to all you.
In the car business, you try not to use the word leasing because all the tax.
Okay, so it sounds like we're for it. Tentatively.
So. Florida statute 72. or, yeah, 720 talks about leases, contracts for products and services. And specific talks about leases. And it just says that, if the association, if requires payment by the association that exceeds 10% of the total annual budget of the association, we must obtain competitive bids.
We always can get competitive bids, but there's also a paragraph in here in the 720 says, without owner's approval, borrow money and pledge association assets as collateral to fund any repairs or any funding needs to be approved by the association. Association being the body. So
It's a debate on whether are we borrowing money or are we signing a lease.
Yeah, I don't.
that's what John's trying to clarify.
So it's fine. We'll pass it to George, but for number purposes, I think we should put it in.
Yeah.
So with that number in and change to variable, like I said, it's 5709 and 7243 respectively.
5709.
And I always round up to the nearest dollar, so you know, so it'd be 58 and 74.
It actually went down $2.
That from the 60.
$580.
Well, $2 from the 60, from this morning. From where we were.
Dues general is how much? And-
Dues went down, I mean, if I go, yeah, 58, it went down $2 by taking out the things.
Okay,
that-
month.
So
Gotcha.
instead of 4517.
So we're going back up to that. top.
Now, mind you, it was the rounded part was 59.23 and I rounded it up to 60. So it's really, you know, really close to a $2 difference at this point.
That's the, you know, folks, everyone, that's the underlying issue that is always the needle. The Facebook comments, the resident, do we need the fluff? Do we need this stuff? Remove the fluff. It's not that much of a difference.
No, actually, if you took out all the blue, which I've done several times, and it's, it means that's our survival rate, right? It's a $6 difference.
Right, so, you know, to not have nice things. To say, no, we're not improving, because we're not improving with the times, we don't have the money to, we're not advancing in anything, and we're not upgrading anything, because we don't have the money to, we're gonna be so budget lean, we've saved you $10 a month. Or we don't live in it.
Well, the other thing that didn't get brought up was the inflation, you know, just the price of
It's in
things.
here,
are
but
going- well, yeah, explaining to them, you know, it's like.
Well, I'm pretty sure they know there's inflation at this point. Everyone has felt it, but the reality is it's, you know, we got across the board, just straight 9% increases from our contracts this year, just across the board. So that's a big part of it too. So the in any event, this one was less of a problem for me to look at because the numbers aren't that drastic. We're talking about, you know, 60 comparatively the year amount would be 686 as opposed to 542. The $144 difference for a year. That's not a lot.
Okay, are we good on the master? Are we
Yep,
moving
I think
forward?
so. I've answered my questions. We've got a couple little openings here. The one thing that could change it, of course, is tree trimming. And
Right.
I'll just give you an idea. If I put another, let's say, we'll call it $60,000, I think gives us a total of 75 in it. It goes to $60 again, 59.80 and 75.14. So that's what we're talking about. $60 seems to be the jumping off point, if that makes sense to you guys. All right, let's move on to PV. It's a little simpler. But they had a big, you know, deficit this year. So there's not as many variables to fill in, hardly none, but I want you to take a look at the deficit of, you know, $14,000 and change, almost 15,000. That's in the carryover. So that's affecting their dues. Now they got a reduction. No, they didn't get a reduction. That was Sagewood. So their dues are affected by this, but in addition to that, their reserve went up 100%, almost 100% from what it was last year, the reserve contributions.
Are we gonna take the bad debt out of this one too, just like we did the master?
I already did on this case. I've already taken out across the board on all five associations. So the numbers I give you are without it.
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay, 51, they have a contingency of 32,000, all right?
Right? And that's based on, again, trying to be at about 10%. It's a little under 10% for obvious reasons. So the only numbers that are really in here that are, variable is I keep contemplating if we need to mulch every single year. We seem to be doing that, but I don't know if we need to do it every single year. Mulch has a 3-year life cycle. So that's $18,000 with the inflation rate on it for their budget. I have no improvements because we're really not doing any landscaping for them. And, we don't do any of that, replace plants except for if a tree gets zapped, and we didn't do any of it this year. Nothing.
Let me ask you, what, if you remove the 18,000, what's that do to their bottom line? Per monthly.
Hang on a second. Let me take care of that.
After
It's $143.83 increase. 271.83 a month. Or
How much?
262.
You said 147 increase?
143.83. So 144 because I round up.
Compared to where they're at,
168.
so.
So $108.
$20.
They're not at 168. That's not right.
Oh, they're at 128.
128. Yeah, not 168. It's $144 increase for them. And again, if you look at the reserve at the bottom of this, it
Or in there at
went up drastically for the roofing alone.
Per year.
I'm lost.
Per
'cause
month. They pay $128 right now per month. And you're
So you're
talking about $144, you said?
Uh-huh.
So it's a difference
Exactly.
between-
Going up in addition. They're going up in addition, so it's gonna make it $272 a month for them.
Correct.
Instead of 296.
Right, because I just took out the $18,000.
72 versus 296.
Yeah,
Correct.
if you take out the
So
18.
If you take
$20.
$20 a month, if you take out the mulch.
Versus
I-
296. What are you referring to as the 296?
Was the proposed, that was
The
the proposed.
Oh, the previous one. I'm sorry.
So the thing is, for $20 a month, you want new mulch every year. Yeah. Senior service.
We need new mulch every year.
So here's the question. Is it a requirement for homeowners to have new mulch every year? If it is, then why would the parent homes be any different?
It isn't a requirement for homeowners to put mulch in ever, except for they have to have pine bark when they do.
No, there's I'd have to
Eh,
find there's a 2-inch minimum barrier, fresh mulch.
Right.
being supposed to be on, not every year, but every time there's a violation.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, I mean, let's be honest, Sean, how often do you remulch?
I put mulch down once in 2 years.
I remulch every year.
Remember,
I mulch every year, so
my
we
house
have
is
to get
3 years
Patty to go
old
look at
next
his
week.
house.
What did you say?
We'll have to get him to look at his house.
You gotta look at Sean's house.
It's $18,000 for mulch for the pair.
Go right ahead. You can call the police. Some of you like my neighbor does.
11,000 for the master.
I hear you at night, Sean.
Is there that much more mulch? in the pair
Yes,
bills?
they have retained now, I know. Every bit of mulch, Yes.
Mark,
So what about
For
security? Our patrol car, whatever it's gonna be. Should we allocate some of it to?
I called it, I changed the name to it already, guys. It's not called patrol anymore. It's called enforcement.
Sean does have a very good point there. Do we want to put that all on the master, or do we want to delegate that evenly amongst all the communities?
How would you include it? I mean, it's really robbing Peter to pay Paul. right?
Well, John and I talked about this a little previously, I think last month or something, but they go on, they patrol Encore now.
All right, if it's only for the master.
Well, the Encore won't get a portion of it because Encore doesn't pay an extra dues.
Wait a minute.
But they, They pay
I'm
the
for-
master.
I'm
To our
for-
HOA, John. I know you pay into your own HOA, but we pay two dues into this HOA, so you're gonna get me on both ends.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
You're gonna
that's
juggle
what I
both
was
of
saying,
them.
that's what I was saying. That's true. Just keep
Say that
it.
again.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so is that if we charge Westlake for part of security, they're paying for it monthly in Westlake, and then they're paying for it again in the master.
So we're still paying same one.
So that means everyone that's not in a service area gets a discount and we get to pay more.
That's true.
Sounds good.
I'm not. in the service area.
I don't have a problem with that. just to point out. I
You
don't
have a
have
problem with that? I have a
that.
problem with that.
The big problem.
I'm joking.
I
guys.
think keep the mulch in there.
Yeah, I could keep the mulch in there, keep security where it is. in there.
Okay, so I put the mulch
So-
back. in.
Sean, on 6412 repairs under the landscaping, you only have $2,000 and yet we've spent actually 34,000.
Okay, the explanation to this is that was to replace sod. And if you look that I have under contracted services and repairs and improvements under irrigation, $60,000 to take the timers out of their houses and put them on the outside, which is a quote that we got from Sunrise just recently. So I'm
Okay.
hoping that by spending the $60,000 there, that we won't be replacing sod again this year.
Let me ask the question, is that the solution that is being proposed, just to move the timer to the outside?
It's a solution they proposed. It's not the one that I proposed. Basically, that price was a little inflated. That's $600 just to move the timers per household.
Let's just drill a hole over the other side, but my point is, I don't think that solves our issue. Centralized management solves our issue.
Right, so my price is with another company that with a new Pro-C timer that's a centralized timer, that's $212 and $400 to install it.
Okay.
And that's notated here. So it's $600 per unit. There's a, basically that's what it's for.
How do those things communicate, by the way?
They can, one of two ways. Wi-Fi is the best way to do it.
Right, but
You can go with cellular, but I don't recommend it. You got to pay for the cell line.
because I can't rely on residents to have their Wi-Fi and let us tap
Right,
into it.
and that's something we need to talk about. We'd have to put in an exterior Wi-Fi system that would pick up for the area, but it's something that's kind of calculated in.
Okay, it's fine.
Anyway, that was a lofty goal to try to get that done. So if we take out the improvements for the irrigation, we put the money back into sod.
So
So-
well, the money's still there, but it is a little bit of a risky gamble, right?
Yes, it is, but I'm hoping we're not going to replace sod every single year, but maybe.
So far, in my experience being here, right, there has been massive sod replacement every single year. Now, just knowing that, I do agree with you that there's a good chunk of that is probably due to incorrect irrigation timing. And the second is just, poor management in the past and poor negotiation skills and poor landscaping all around. But I don't know, but it is a gamble, because if we're wrong, then we spend the money fixing the irrigation, which I think ultimately will fix the problems. I'm just not sure it's gonna fix it in 2024, probably reap those benefits. I'm sorry, in 2023, we'll reap those benefits in 2024. We may still have sod issues in 2023 while we get these systems installed up and operate. That's the concern.
Okay, so you want to put some more money in the sod?
We'll take it up to 100.
I don't know.
Because that would be your 34. It was roughly spent on side this year.
I would, just to, what is the term, kiss? We gotta cover it, because I don't know, we don't know when we're gonna kick this project off. We don't know when the
Right,
sod.
but then that's kind of, we still have the contingency, which is about the same amount as what the sod is. I can throw, we can throw that, the $35,000 back into repairs, and I can tell you what that does to the numbers. $314 per month. an increase of 196. It's 150% increase.
Can
Yeah.
you do the centralized system in a sequence, like zone by zone by zone, so you could do it over a 3-year period of time?
There's no zones when it comes to a timer per house. It's one house at a time, maybe.
Well, but like, there are 100 homes there, so do 33, 33, and be wild and say 34 on the 3rd year. I mean, could you do it like that way? So you
You
would only
could.
need to have a third of that expense each year, and you'd still have some money in there for the sod. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't go up at all. You'd just be
You
moving
could.
money out of the manufacturing, the 66,000.
That poses 2 issues only, just FYI.
I was gonna bring that up, so yeah.
One issue is you're gonna now have 3-year-old equipment between each other. Maybe different system, maybe different parts, different prices.
Exactly.
But also, you're gonna have a third of that neighborhood wondering why they can't control their water and the others can. So,
Yeah.
rip it off, do it all at once.
Yeah, the simple answer is they lost the lottery.
Well, good.
I mean, couldn't it be a pilot program? The HOA is trying to.
Pilot program.
You've been selected for a pilot program. That's good.
You've been randomly selected. Yeah. Uh-huh.
To say, because of the contingency, maybe we don't need to add it back in there. It's probably not a bad gamble, because if we lose the bet on that one in 2023, we have to continue.
So let's beef it just a little bit. Let's put 10 on it.
Okay,
Okay, instead of 2, that's $8,000 more than we originally had. That brings us back under the $300 mark. At least it's $294. Anyone?
no, I think it's good. Anyone not? All right, we're good. Sagewood?
Sagewood. Sagewood didn't have as big of a deficit, but we sure did spend a lot of money on landscaping. I'll take out the bad debt already. It's already out, so don't worry about that. Same kind of contingency issues as before, so that's going to stay the way it is for the moment. The first number down here is there's an internet expense, and that's to handle their timers.
Jeez.
Mhm.
If we do the same thing with their area and put timers out, we'd have to probably provide the internet. So that's what the $3,600 is in the internet that you see there. They spent $44,000 in change for sod and repairs this year. They have less homes, so the delta on this is almost exactly the same. Spend $45,600 for timer replacements or $45,000 on sod. And I still already have $10,000 in repairs in addition to that, plus the $34,000 contingency. It's almost the exact same scenario.
Your 3,600 you put in there for internet is not just ISP, that's ISP and equipment.
It's correct.
Gotcha. And I'm assuming that's no labor. That's more of me.
For this, it can be more of me. I can do that in a couple hours.
Okay,
And it can be both of us. I mean, whatever it is. The
It'd be 4 hours.
then it would be 4 hours.
it'll probably, if we both do it together, it'll take 6 hours. If you do it by yourself, I do it myself, it's 2 hours.
It's probably very true. So. That's what you want. Okay, what else should we be looking at?
There's
here?
really not much else going on here. Those are only the really variables here. I've got tree trimming and tree removal. We talked about that. The $2,000, we just got a windfall from Tommy. Tom was would have been part of this, but there are at least 6 trees that need to come down that they showed us, and we probably have a different assessment once we hear the report from the tree people that came by recently. So that's that's in here. There's mulch in here. They had included mulch into repairs last year. I moved it into mulch by itself. So it's actually in 6412. It's been moved down to I'm sorry, it was in tree trimming. It was moved from 6414 to 6416 to give it a little bit more clarity. We spent $32,353 on tree trimming / tree removal / mulch last year.
Okay,
This is not padded, and this is pretty, bare bones, but it doesn't change their numbers as drastically. What does change it is, of course, the $45,000 for timers and installing timers. Their reserve went up double. So they're gonna take a hit. And the hit is, even after taking out that number, is $397 a month. That's a $200 increase, $204 increase.
and that's primarily reserves on that. That's. very-
Primarily reserve money. If you took the 46, almost $47,000 and divide it by the houses, it's, more than half of that. Then 10% for, you can justify probably 70% of the increase on just inflation and the reserve. The other part is the timers, believe it or not. But it offsets what they spent on grass replacement.
Okay,
So what was that number again after you took out the bad debt? I'm sorry, Sean.
397,
Thank you.
an increase of 204. Any more questions on this one?
No,
no,
They had a very small prior year deficit, $596, which is great. So Westlake has got some carryover in the positive, which is nice. I took out the bad debt, which is only $3,600 because we have a very small income, as you guys know. So the only thing that's really different in here is we had $15,000 for improvements last year, 15,310. After we got through the repairs for the hurricane and stuff, we spent $20,000. I put 12,000 for repairs and tree trimming, tree removal and mulch of the same. We didn't have a mulch budget last year. It was included in our regular repair budget. So it's gone up a bit from $34,000 to $48,000 for maintenance and landscaping. That's the only real increase for Westlake. I've got some improvements to change their timers and so forth in there as well. We've got quite a few things. There's a few irrigation areas like that last island it isn't irrigated yet. So this number is inclusive of trying to put a water meter in there and irrigating that last island.
actually looks pretty good now.
So the numbers on this come out pretty nice, actually. It's only a $28 increase. So we're paying 162 as opposed to 133.
Does Westlake plan on putting anything in the budget for our roads?
That's in our reserves.
The reserves.
That's in the pavement. Actually, as you can see, the fencing saved our reserves almost $6,000 this year by taking out the fence. So that offsets some of these improvements we're putting into. So we only have two reserve items. We have a general reserve, which is for like the well pump and that kind of thing, street signs, etc., and then the streets itself. The street lights are at least, so we don't have to worry about that in a reserve. We have no fencing at this point, except for the 3 fences we talked about earlier. So it actually helps save some money. So this is actually the best case scenario for this particular area, and not, it's just by happenstance. I wish I could said this for all of them, but I can't.
Do we still share the well with the county?
We don't share it with anyone really. I mean, they use it, but that's on a share. They don't consider that shared. We talked about that earlier about them kind of turning that over to us. Then we'd have to get their reserve funding to go into our well, which go into our reserves. That's something that Tommy brought up a little while ago. We'll keep pursuing that when we pan out for probably the 2024 budget.
What's in that corner then? Is that the well where they're getting the water across from my house?
That's our well.
Okay, because that's where they're coming in, help, well, it's been a while, but they would help themselves. They would fill up their,
No, they had permission. It was something the HOA gave them permission to do. So, but yes, we're not sharing it with them. They are filling up their truck with water occasionally.
I think it's fine. Where are we at? Sandpiper?
yeah, move on to Sandpiper.
Sandpiper Crest had a large carryover, and that's mostly because we sold most of the houses this year and we didn't bank on the income coming in until they were sold. So that made a surplus. Which was nice because we had taken a beating on this a little bit the year before because of the agreement with the homeowner, and they had budgeted 100% again. So taking out bad debt on this one, which is not much, just $7,600. Their money actually goes down. I've got 10% of the contingency. I've got mulch in here, even though there wasn't a budget for it last year, but I put mulch in here. They don't have hardly any trees to trim at the moment, but they will next year. Years afterwards, they're all too young to do anything with. We had a couple replacements that were done. That's what that $3,400 is for repairs. So their numbers actually go down substantially. Their reserve study actually went down as well. It was both Westlake and Sandpiper Crest reserves were done pretty close to what our engineering company did. So their dues would be reduced by $47.
That's incredible considering the builder.
Yep. This is the best case scenario for them. Really, it is. It'll offset a little bit of what they saved from, what's going up in the master.
All right. Do we have anything else we need to look at on the budget? 'Cause other than that, if not.
No,
I
just the open comments that we made, a couple of little quote things that are outstanding. I made notes on it, but other than that, it's pretty close to where it needs to be.
So then you want to have a meeting, you're having a meeting with finance?
I've gotten no response from them. This is the third time I've requested meetings with the finance committee. It's just no response from them whatsoever.
And that sucks. It really does, it. But my question is, when do we get a copy of this and when should we be sending it out?
I already emailed you that, right? Copy, if we can get the couple numbers that we were talking about nailed down. And you guys are okay with this on first pass, I'll send this draft out to you again. Everyone can tell me it looks good, and then we'll just make a final copy. The email I sent you said no later than Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right. You did say that. I'm sorry. Yep. Okay.
Can I have one alibi, guys? So it came up earlier about the retaining walls on the Sandpiper. And so they're showing 3320 in their reserves for that. Is that sufficient to, when I just went by there recently and it's really, really bad. Is that tracking?
The builder's still in there damaging those retaining walls. So at this point, we're trying to get it to kind of passed on to the builder. We met with them 2 weeks ago, Patty, I can't remember when, and walked the property with both Tom and Troy is the builder's supervisor, building supervisor's name. Their whole thing is, and I don't know who signed the contract with them, once they sell the house, they wipe their hands clean of us and it's all our problem, no matter what it is. But some of these walls were not constructed correctly, and that's what Tom was sharing with us. And that if we can basically prove that, we can probably make them replace it. So I'm not anticipating at this point, it's a huge invasive project to dig all that up, and the established hedges would get torn out to do it. It would be terribly expensive.
I'm also going to take a walk and look at them with Patty and the builder, but builders offer a 1-year warranty. I understand what they're saying. They signed that contract is probably signed with Newland. I'd love to see it. So far, no one can provide it, not even Park Square.
Cool. I happened to see them not too long ago and they're really bad. Okay. Just that popped out, that seems like a low amount. If if this subsection is gonna have to deal with some kind of major
But
repairs.
that's the reserve. It's not, it's not for repairs. I mean, basically that we barely established a reserve. They're only 2 years old.
Okay, but so how, if the reserves are not gonna do, right? If it's reconstruction, that's beyond repairs, correct?
Yes.
That's just up.
I mean, you could wipe out the reserve if you feel so. They've got $200,000 in the reserve to fix them, and I don't think it'll be enough.
Also, if this is a problem in 2023 with these retaining walls, this is a lawsuit with George. This is way too new, right? I mean, they're brand new.
Construction order.
Yeah, well, you may refer us to a construction lawyer, but if Park Square is just unwilling to done the work on a complete catastrophe of retaining walls within the next 12 months, then this is definitely a lawyer update.
Cause they built it before the house was even broke ground. They were sucking the water out. and
Yeah.
building
That's
those,
what they
yeah.
do.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Nope, just,
definitely
just
something
the,
to pursue.
just an alibi. I know Sean's gotta go. My brain's tired, so thanks,
Well,
everybody.
I agree with you, Matt. I'm just saying, if it's a catastrophic fail, it's not gonna be a $20,000 swing here. We're probably looking at, $100,000+, so.
And we certainly can't throw that on the budget of the homeowner. That would, it would have to come from something, special assessment or something. You can't throw it in the budget.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, so I think we're all good with this. We'll follow up with the trees. John, I'm gonna follow up with the attorney. Thanks for the equipment, and Sean, let me know if you need anything from me for Monday. Other than that, we'll look for this Tuesday.
Yep.
And Sean, just thank you very much for.
Yeah,
everything
thanks,
you've
Sean.
done.
No problem, guys. I'm gonna be working all night. Kathy, on another note, I won't make it Sunday.
Hey, Sean. Hey, Sean, you there still?
Yeah, I am.
Hey, I didn't see my fireworks show in the budget.
I'm out.
Well, I didn't see my Halloween or my Christmas either.
Guys, just change the name of patrol. You can make this real.
All right, thank you, Sean.
Great work, Sean.
Okay, talk to you guys soon. Thanks.